Okay, so I was just minding my own business today. It's my day off, and wasting time on the YouTube because what else would I be doing, frankly? And this video that was recommended to me in the side column, I was like, oh, what is this? Let me watch this. And I will put the video link in the description box of this video for those of you who are curious and want to watch the full video and look at more context in the comments and stuff like that. But basically, this video was implying, not really implying, more so explicitly saying that Tamera Mowry from the daytime show The Real got fired over this homophobic rant. So of course that clickbaity title had me in, and I watched the video and I was left completely triggered by the conversation and by the rant that she did go on. Is it totally homophobic? I think that might be a little bit of a stretch, but it's still very I think damaging to say the things that she said. So I'm going to go into that in a second. But I do first, before I show you guys the clip, and then we'll talk about it. Before I show you the clip, I want to point out that then I did a little bit of research and found out that it is very clickbaity, the video, in that apparently this clip from the show The Real is from 2 years ago. It's from September of 2018. We're now in 2020, October of 2020. So I don't know why this clip is suddenly recirculating. I guess because she has left the show The Real. Some people on the internet are trying to say that this is why, even though it's clearly not why, because this is 2 years later. And by the way, it would seem that she left on her own accord. So not only is it not because of this clip, but it would seem she wasn't fired at all, but that she quit to pursue other projects. So I just have to say this to clear up that element, but I do still think it's an important conversation to have over this, the discussion in this clip. Here's the clip, and then we'll talk about it.
Friends. Bert and Ernie, y'all, from Sesame Street.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ernie!
The writer said that he suspected that Bert and Ernie were gay. He said that when he was writing the characters, he actually drew from things from his own same-sex relationship. But the home of Big Bird said that Mark made a big mistake. Sesame Street Workshop made a statement to clarify that Bert and Ernie do not have a sexual orientation and that they are simply best friends and puppets and nothing more. What are your opinions on this?
As a kid, it was one of my favorite shows. Yeah. I wasn't really thinking about the genitalia of, and what they were doing sexually as a kid. I was like, okay, they're puppets. But as a parent, I'm focused more on, what are you teaching my child?
Yes.
Are you teaching my child to love one another? Are you teaching my children how to be friendly and create amazing friendships? That's what really matters. I don't care if they're brown, a yellow, orange, whatever. What is the message that you are portraying?
I hear what you're saying, but I disagree because they do care. And your kids are learning.
At 5 years old and at 3 years old, my daughter isn't thinking.
So this clip left me completely triggered, as the kids say, because it's such a typical example. It kind of reminds me of when somebody says Black Lives Matter and somebody else goes, no, all lives matter. It's a perception and an argument that is rooted in ignorance and a lack of intellectual nuance. Like, they're refusing to read between the lines and only look at this as a black and white issue. Obviously, they're just puppets. Obviously, it's just a TV show. But when you say something like kids are too young to be exposed to this, then they're going to start questioning this and that, and they're too young to understand. That is such bullshit. Kids are so perceptive. Kids are like sponges. They absorb everything. And kids are constantly exposed to a heterosexual dynamic all the time. If we're going to use this example, the most famous couple, the most famous duo on Sesame Street, it's Miss Piggy and Kermit, who are in a relationship. So it's mind-blowing to me that nobody questions that dynamic, but because it's a gay thing, instantly there's this, oh, the kids are too young, they're too vulnerable to be exposed to this. And what I find so odd and honestly disturbing is people like Tamera Mowry in this clip. They're always obsessed with the sex part of what it means to be gay, right? And even what she mentions about genitalia and sexuality, and I'm thinking, like, who said anything about genitalia and sexuality? And that's what I find so sad about being gay, and I mean, this is historical, right? Gay people have always been seen as the perverts of society, like the sexual deviants of society. And the funny thing is, I hadn't even kissed a boy, let alone anything else, for the first like 20 years of my life, literally. So I find it so sad that despite that, just because I say I'm gay, just because I know for all those 20 years that I was gay, as soon as I say it, no matter what I've experienced or haven't experienced, I'm being put into this box of, oh, well, what do you do behind closed doors and what do gay men do together and all this stuff. It's a very offensive mentality because it basically makes gay men a, what's the word, like a one-dimensional character as opposed to a multifaceted person like everybody else. And it's ironic to hear a woman say these things because historically that's what has been done to women as well, right? Like historically, women are also made into these one-dimensional figures of you're either the virgin or you're the slut. Like there's no in between. So it's interesting to me that a woman could be that intellectually limited about what it means to be gay and have to frame it as a sexual thing as opposed to like you can be gay and have a partnership, have a romance, have a deep friendship, build a family the same way that straight people can. I'm also disappointed that this is a biracial woman saying this who also happens to be married to a white man. So I'm like, she's talked about this openly before, being biracial and you know what comes with the territory of that growing up. And also she has talked on this show before, on The Real, about how horrible people will be to her on social media about the fact that she married a white man, and that her kids are consequently also mixed. And I just don't understand how somebody could have that experience and yet be so, again, intellectually limited when these concepts are applied to a completely different minority group. One of my pet peeves is people who are very oversensitive about like things that happen to them, but then they're insensitive towards other people. And this is a classic example. She wants her family to be accepted and to be treated with respect as she and they should be, but yet she's not able to extend that same kind of empathy towards gay people. And I think people who are like this, I don't think they're necessarily homophobic. It's kind of the same thing with racism, right? Where some people are really, truly like as racist as you can get, like KKK level. But then I think most people are just ignorant. Like they just don't know better and they're not willing to question or challenge their thoughts. Also, in this mentality of let's protect the children, there's always this forgetfulness that if we're going to protect all children, gay kids and confused kids and kids who maybe are already like, I like girls, but I like boys too. Like the kids are already thinking about these things. I don't care what anybody says. I was thinking about this stuff. So I'm assuming a lot of other kids are thinking about this. Kids have crushes on other kids. So kids aren't as attractionless as society likes to make them out to be. There's also a lot of kids who are growing up with gay parents or gay adults in their, or even other gay kids in their families, in their environments. So it's very much a straight, like a heterosexual mentality to assume, oh, we have to protect the kids because they all start out pure. And implied in that comment for me is, oh, well, they all start out straight, so let's just keep it that way. Missing the nuance that there are kids like I was who it would really be helpful actually to have seen an example of what I would be or would want to be. Obviously, we're talking about puppets, but just to normalize that concept would have been so much of a relief for me as a gay kid. So I find it fascinating that people's obsession, especially parents' obsession with protecting the kids, oftentimes I think they're actually doing more harm than good. This topic in particular, I get very defensive about because not only because of the childhood part that I just mentioned, but when I started telling people that I was gay, I had people in my family say, don't tell these people in our family, don't tell your little brother, because of this same paranoia of they're too young, they're too fragile. And it's such a hurtful thing because it immediately implies that what you are is impure and what you are and who you are is tainted and like, again, sexually deviant. And at that time, when I had told family members, I actually hadn't done anything sexual ever. And I'm even wondering, I don't even think I had kissed a guy yet. So how sad is that I'm instantly being now regarded as someone who is perverted or who's just not how he's supposed to be when it comes to his sexuality. Like, I'm instantly being sexualized, even though ironically I was a virgin, and yet other people who were telling me this had by this point many more sexual partners than I had had. So like the irony of instantly you are being depicted as somebody who the person depicting you might be more of that than you are yourself. Does that make sense? So like I said, this is a clip that's 2 years old, but it's randomly recirculating, and I think it's because people are trying to use this to say that this is why she was let go, which is not the case, because why would they do that 2 years later? And as mentioned, apparently she left on her own accord. But I do want to bring this up because I'd never seen this clip before, which I'm actually very surprised by that I never heard about this. I feel like it should have become like a bigger conversation because it is so polarizing. When I look at the comment section of videos like this, I always get even more triggered because I find that typically people who are LGBT see exactly what I see because they've had the same life experience. But people who aren't, not everybody, but everybody who disagrees typically is not LGBT because they just like totally miss the nuance of that experience, especially what it's like to be a gay kid yourself. So it's very frustrating for me when I read the comments, and I'm sure it's gonna happen on this video too, where people just like aren't willing to get it because it's so outside of their bubble. What do you guys think about this?